Welcome back. This is episode number 300 and which number is it, Graham? 45. 345. It's 345 of the Healthy Diabetic podcast. Before we get started, please remember that nothing that you hear in this podcast should be considered medical advice or otherwise. Please always consult your medical team before making any changes to your diabetes management.
Hey, I think I have what I believe was a great question, and I wrote it down.
Okay,
So
let's
I'm
go.
gonna pivot,
We're getting into
and I'm
everybody.
gonna
Okay,
go. Does diabetes require wearing pockets?
Does diabetes require
I love
wearing
that you're
pockets?
talking about this. How important are pockets to your diet?
I think I'm going to turn this over on you. I think it depends on if you're on it depends on.
I know what
Okay,
you're
so
gonna
hold on.
say, and
So
I
hold on.
disagree.
Hold on. I would say it depends on a couple things. One, female versus male. I think it depends on technology versus not technology, which means MDI versus pump. And then I also say it depends on what you are doing, right? If you're just going out with friends, I don't know, maybe pockets are involved. Like if you're on MDI, you have to have some type of storage.
Let me
Some
take a
type of
step.
storage. Hold on. So if you're on MDI, I feel like you have to have some type of storage because you're just not going to hold the pens in your hand. You have to have some type of pocket, or you have to have some type of backpack, whatever it might be, to take that stuff with you, or some type of thing you're traveling with. If you're a female, probably be easier because you can just throw it whatever you need in your purse if you're on MDI. If you're on a pump, you should have extra supplies, but you're probably leaving that stuff in the car. If you're going out and you took a taxi or an Uber, you probably don't have extra supplies, but you automatically have your insulin right there.
Let me interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me take a step
Yeah,
back.
go ahead.
If you're at a department store and you're looking around at shorts, are you less interested in a pair of shorts without pockets, knowing that you may want to have your phone with your CGM? Because I put on a pair of shorts without pockets, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
I was doing like phone in the. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I forgot about the phone. I don't know why. So
That's what I'm saying. That's
yeah. I got you.
so it doesn't really
I would
matter
say
across the board.
I would say it's not diabetes specific. I would just say it's like fashion, how we live specific.
I disagree.
No, I guarantee you ask most people this question, if they would wear pants without pockets, they'd be like, no, I got to put my phone somewhere. I guarantee most people would say that they would want pockets to store something in their pockets.
You know, I know you're
What? And a lot of leggings have that side pocket for their phone. A lot of leggings have side pocket for the phone. And on top of that, if they don't have leggings, what do girls have? Purses or some type of thing to hold their stuff in.
I have always had a backpack or a fanny pack or what. Are you that way?
Yeah, I mean, I have my fanny pack now. I just wear a fanny pack.
Yeah.
That has my pens and needles and wallet and all that stuff in.
So my argument would be if I was at a department store looking at it and something had a pocket, it would be like, well, I can have my phone, my CGM, and a pocket implies that I could, if I got to throw a needle in some, or, I got to throw a snack in my pocket or this and that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you. Like pockets are important, but I don't think they're diabetes specific, type 1 diabetes specific. I think it's just the nature of society right now and like how we like to live. We want pockets to put shit in. We want a pocket to put our phone in our back pocket in our jeans or whatever it is. Like we want pockets. We need pockets. At least one. I would say at least one pocket.
If when you're posting this, you hear me say this, look it up. There are a number of small businesses that have lines, like fashion lines, that are specific to diabetics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I met one here in Orlando. The second comment I would say, I like pockets so much that I get shorts with a zipper. So it's like a pocket and a zipper.
I like
so
that.
It's like double up.
Yeah, I like that because most of the pants I would say shorts, most of the shorts that I wear, I will also work out in those shorts. So it's like they're fashion shorts that I wear when I go out, but then they're also shorts because they look nice and they fit nice. They also are things that I would work out in. So if I'm going to run or if I'm going to do some high intensity stuff, I want to put my phone or whatever in my pocket or something in my pocket and zip it up so it doesn't bounce out.
Well,
I like the zipper pocket, yes.
so I got something else for you that was interesting. We really rarely talk about this diabetic retinopathy.
What about it?
Eyes,
Yeah,
vision
what about it?
loss, the threat that we as diabetics worry about it. But I posted in our notes that there are now advancements. So this one is a new drug to stop diabetic retinopathy early altogether. What are you saying?
No, go ahead.
So if you look around, a new study from Science Advances, team used advanced technologies to study small clusters and rare pancreas samples from over 250 people of different ages with and without diabetes. Okay. They found that in children without diabetes, these small clusters are plentiful and grow rapidly in the first years of life. However, as you would expect, children with type 1, these small clusters were almost completely missing, destroyed by the immune system before they had a chance to grow. So these drugs are meant to reverse that exact finding. Pretty
But that is only for children who haven't gone through the growth
hard to say.
time
Hard to
frame.
say. I think
Because
this was. Go
what
ahead.
you're saying
This
what
was
you're
the research.
saying
That research
yeah, yeah,
was.
yeah. So, but what I'm hearing you say in this article, that children that are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I would imagine very young, and I would be curious to know what it says when the age, like, not just from the article, but from when these cells in the eyes actually form and grow, how long it takes. Like,
So.
are they fully grown at 5 years old? Are they not fully grown until you're 18? Like, when do they fully grow, right? Because in this context, I think that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
Because if we're talking young kids, because this drug for young kids, because they get type 1 diabetes, and because of their autoimmune condition, the cells in their eyes or those cells or whatever get attacked as well, but whatever it is, like, I'd have to look deeper into the
Uh,
research for
please
that. But like, what is the age? Because that matters, because me being diagnosed at 25, my cells in my eyes are all like, everything's grown, everything's good. Like, so this, I wouldn't take this drug.
do me a favor. There's the link on our notes. Look at it. Everything that you just asked is answered
Why
in
don't you
there.
just tell me so I don't have
Well,
to look at it?
I feel like the main headline is a bit misleading because when you jump into it, it is specifically children under 7. It's young
Okay,
children.
so it's children under 7.
So this study itself is very young children. But look at it and take a look. I think it's cool. I mean, it's all
Well,
angles.
yeah. I'm
Because
not gonna
hold
read
on.
this whole thing right now, but
Now,
yeah,
no, no, no,
I
hold
get what
on.
you're saying. Yeah.
Now, let me hit you with a number 3 and one that we don't talk about: amputation risks in diabetes.
Oh, I love this one.
What is your? Let me broad. What's your relationship with it?
My relationship with it, I
What
don't
is
have a
your like?
relationship with it because I don't
Tell
have
me
an
about it. When were you introduced to it? When was it? When you?
diagnosis. It was used as a scare tactic, right? So a lot of people go through a scare tactic from their medical team when they're first diagnosed, of like, well, if you don't take care of your diabetes, or your leg's going to get chopped off, or your toes are going to get chopped off, which is the case if you don't take care of yourself. It could be the case, just like you lose your eyesight, just like your eyes could go, just like your gums could go, right? When I was first diagnosed, they were saying, and I've heard this even up to 5 years ago, when I actually heard it from the last time, it was probably around 5 years ago, that your gums and your eyes go first. And then later on in life, as you don't continue to take care of yourself, and you have, continued uncontrolled fluctuations and instability in your blood sugars, that's when your cells or whatever in your feet, in your legs, in your extremities, like in your body, like all of this stuff starts breaking down. I would think that like your kidneys, your organs would go before you'd have to get an amputation. Maybe not. I don't know for sure. Just because if you think about the body, like things being destroyed from the inside out, that's how I kind of think about it. But yeah, amputation has been a thing that was like hammered into my brain as a scare tactic, when I was first diagnosed, and all of those appointments when I wasn't in control because I didn't have any support. Yeah, I heard that all the time.
I
The
think a
question
better.
becomes now, with how people can control their blood sugar, the technology that we have now, like, is this still like a big thing for people that live with type 1 diabetes? I think it is still a big thing for people that live with type 2 diabetes. I'm not sure about the Like, if there was 10 people getting amputations because of diabetes 1 or 2, how many of those people are type 1? How many people are type 2? I don't know what the
Hold on,
stats are behind
because
it.
I got a stat for that. Wait, I
Okay,
want to
cool.
quickly say, I think a better piece of advice is something I heard later in diabetes, and I just heard it reiterated again on this show with our friend Kelly. You need to pay attention to your immune system. So how fast does a bruise heal? How is your hair
Mm,
growing? How are your nails? All those, right? All those things that are like,
yeah.
that to me was like 10 times better advice that you would have ever. I mean, your body, literally, like you said, your body's rotting. A lot has to happen before your body's rotting. I hate to admit it.
Well,
Um,
yeah, but that's why I think that the organs in the inside of your body will be damaged first, and which is why I understand the eyes, the gums, bruising.
yeah, correct.
That's why I understand that stuff
Yeah,
before
that's all. Like I said, that's
amputation
all.
because it's from the inside out.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. This is crazy. So I never even knew it. So we got an acronym now for it.
Okay.
Lower limb amputations, LLAs. 80% of all LLAs are a result of complications from diabetes.
Does it specifically say type 1 or type 2?
This is
Because
from
that
the
matters.
CDC. No,
That
it just says
it
diabetes.
so when they are talking, this is my opinion. I have not actually looked at this article, everybody. This is my opinion. When the CDC, when the FDA, when medical professionals pretty much say diabetes, which is why what 3-4 episodes ago when I made
No,
the statement, hold on, when I made the statement that diabetes, type 1 diabetes shouldn't even be called type 1, it shouldn't be called diabetes anymore. When I made that statement, this is exactly why. Because everyone always talks about diabetes, but then they're really talking about type 2 diabetes. And in this context, when they're saying 80% of all amputations comes from diabetes, that is a big deal if of that 80%, 50%, 60% is type 2 and 40% is
right.
type
No
1,
way. No way.
that's an important distinction, right? So is it
Keep
is it
talking. Let me see
higher?
if I can find.
That's what I mean. Do you understand what I'm saying though? When you say that, when you say 80% of amputations that happen every year come from diabetes, you have to distinguish between type 1 and type 2.
Dude, isn't
Are
I
you
mean if type
using
one
are you
is
using chat? Are you using Claude or what are you using?
if no, my brain. Hold on, here we go. Tick, tick,
Are you using your brain? You can see the dots going
okay,
above
ready? Here we go.
Graham's brain is loading.
Okay, the best available research shows that type 1 diabetes accounts for a minority of total diabetes cases that has a higher per person amputation rate. Most LLAs from diabetes come from type 2.
Yeah, does it give a percentage?
But
Or like
listen,
so many out
hold
of
on.
so many.
But an individual with type 1 has a higher risk of amputation. So there's more type
Mm,
there are
mm,
more type 2
yeah, I see what they're
with.
saying.
Okay, here we go.
But again, that's not giving us a stat of percentages between type 1 and type 2 because in reality, if that it like just say let's just say this as an example, right? This is not a true stat just as an example, right? So let's just say out of that 80%,
Hold on, bro. It's got a whole breakdown here.
hold on. Okay, so let's just say out of that 80%, okay, you say 50% of that is coming from type 2 and 50% of that is coming from type 1. The reality is there's going to always be more type 2s in the stat
Mhm.
because there are more type 2s than type 1s.
Okay.
So
You want
you
your
can't like you have to have a percentage
I
of
I
that
actually
80%.
done this. So it's essentially they doubled the percentage of type 1s to type 2. So if of all diabetics, if type 1s are 5 to 10%, they double that. So they're calling it they're saying type 1 diabetes accounts for roughly 10 to 20% of diabetes related LLAs worldwide.
10 to 20% out of
So like I said,
80.
they doubled that so we are 5 to 10% of diabetics, right? They doubled that just to be safe on the safe side. But still,
Yeah, still.
bro, that's pretty cool. So, well, you got to remember
Well,
what we
no,
just
it's
said,
not cool. It's not cool.
Kenneth. You got to remember what we just said. At the highest of all LLAs, 20% are only type 1. However, we are at a much higher risk of the amputation, though the type 2s
Does it
dominate.
and it actually says that we
Yeah,
are at
yeah.
more
Yes,
risk?
sir. Yes,
See, I
sir.
want to know. I wanna know why.
It's crazy, huh?
I wanna know why we are more at risk.
Okay, let's just
Because I
because
would argue that the insulin the person that is the type 2 diabetic that is, the one that has the most issues with insulin resistance, which is ultimately one of the factors that's going to lead to amputation. So,
I'm
those
listening
types of
'cause I wanna
individuals,
understand this too. Go ahead.
I would think that person is more at risk because the insulin resistance and the continuous buildup of insulin, the continuous lack of blood flow, like all this stuff that's happening, I would think that person is more at risk for the amputation. But I mean, I guess I can somewhat understand on that type 1 side, but
Can I
I,
give you
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I give you what I think the obvious answer is?
What's the obvious answer?
Well, type 2, a big percentage of type 2 diabetes patients come with all sorts of other issues. It's not just the diabetes. They have,
Well, so do
to
we. Again, we're the minority.
well, you have to
Me and you are the
understand maybe
minority. Like,
hold
you
on,
think that about other people that have been living people that have been living with diabetes for 30 plus
hold on,
years, like
hold on. Wait,
you're on the good side of the
let's
spectrum
also
there.
let's also go back, and this might make you mad. Lower limb amputations technically is a surgery to remove a toe, foot, or leg. So technically you get a toe taken off for diabetes, and
Yeah, because it's an amputation.
that
Yeah.
goes into the stat.
Yeah,
So
so
I think it
what's your
makes it a
point?
little skewed, but there's probably
Why is
every
it
type,
skewed?
I don't I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy though, isn't it? That's a wild. I mean,
Of
those
all
are
the
crazy,
people
crazy numbers.
that I've ever talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people over the last 5 years with type 1 diabetes, of all the people that I've ever talked to, not many of them have had an amputation, a
Yeah.
toe
Wait, of type 2 or type 1?
of type 1.
Yeah.
Did I say type 2? All the people that I've talked to with type 1 diabetes, that have lived with diabetes for a long, long time, not many of them, if any to my recollection, there might be a couple in there, but not many of them have had some type of amputation. A lot of them have had internal organ failure, okay? Kidney failure, pancreatic failure, gut issues, other autoimmune conditions that came up. But I've talked to a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of, I've talked to a decent amount of, interacted with a decent amount of type 2 diabetics that have gotten toes cut off or toes amputated, multiple toes amputated, all of the toes
Mhm,
amputated, feet, leg, like from the ankle down. Like
mhm.
a lot of people are, again, not a lot of people, but a decent amount of people that I have communicated with over the past 20 years of my fitness career
It's so
and in doing
extreme. It seems so
one.
extreme, doesn't it?
It does seem extreme, and that's why that stat, I was like, "Well, what's the percentage of that 80% of diabetes of type 2 versus type 1?" Because that they're always gonna be higher
Which
anyway
one didn't you
because
like?
there's so many of them.
Which one were you caught up on?
That when it said 80% of diabetes accounts
80%?
for
No, no,
eighty
no.
eighty
Eighty
percent of
percent of LLAs are a result of complications from diabetes.
correct, but they're not giving percentage of
Yeah.
each kind because
What I just told you, it's still a very, very small number. It's a
it's a
very
small
small number.
number. It's only a small number, Graham, and this is where I'm trying to understand what the percentage is, and maybe I'm gonna ask Claude this after we're done. But this is so there will always be the stat will always be higher on type 2 because there's just so
Yeah,
many more of them.
without a doubt.
Right? So, but that is why that's why it's important, like, when we read these stats that we don't get so hung up on, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm such at risk as a type 1 of getting an amputation." Like, yes, because your system doesn't work 100% efficiently, but then I would argue that no one's does. Not many people on planet Earth, their system works 100% efficiently because of toxins, because of food, because of lack of exercise. I mean, you name it, all the things that we talk about on the show of the things that we're supposed to be doing as human beings to have optimal health. Not many human beings on planet Earth do that. So this concept of like, oh, I'm at a higher risk. Like, okay, yeah, you're at a higher risk, but guess what? You have the option to fix it. You have the option to lower the risk exponentially. Yes, I know. I totally botched that.
I was like,
You have the
work through
risk.
it.
You have the ability to lower the risk by doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. Yes, go.
Oh, shit for that, man. You said something passionately about being scared tactics. Probably the first time in my life with diabetes where I'm like, well, that's heck yeah, man. Scare me all you want because it worked. And maybe it was all for just a big
Yeah,
fuss.
but that dude, I'm telling you, like, you're a different breed.
But maybe the fuss work, the fuss worked though. It works.
It
So
worked on you, but it doesn't work on a lot of other people.
I know. Yeah, but
And
people didn't
think
can't
about how
don't
I always
forget
think
I
about
wasn't
Graham, hold on. I always think about this with you. You are an individual that thrives on, like, being challenged in life. You are such an individual that
mm,
that just be that thrives on when someone challenges you, right? You're just gonna try to figure it out.
no, I make things more
Most
difficult for myself. That's what I do.
Yes, but the determination that you as a human being have on everything that you've accomplished, taking over your family's company, doing what you do in that business, like, being a diabetic young, like making sure that it is like it is a massive priority for you to actually exercise every day and run and do all these things. Like, most people don't have that determination in life, man. So when you throw an insane traumatic diagnosis like type 1 diabetes on an individual that is not already mentally strong. And then on top of that, you're trying to give them scare tactics especially as a young kid. If you don't take care of this, you're going to lose an eye, you're going to lose a leg, you're going to die young. Like, why? What is the point of that? When I could easily come at you, regardless if you're mentally strong or not, and just be there and listen and say you're not alone and help you, one, navigate the condition, but two, also help you find others that are going to help you. Instead of you walking into my office for 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes every 3 to 4 months and say, okay, what's going on? Oh, your blood sugars are elevated. Okay, well, let's just change your medication. That's the answer. No, that's not the fucking answer. The answer is having follow up. The answer is having someone that can teach you the ins and outs of how to deal with this condition mentally and physically. That's why this is so important. It is not about a damn freaking scare tactic.
Hmm.
Some people can take it. Graham, you can take a scare tactic and run all day with it. Other people can't. I would argue that most people can't, and most people don't want to deal with that. Like, I just think that is the nature of the beast of the world that we live in. And not every single endocrinologist, medical team does that. And I high five those medical teams that don't do that, that have compassion, that have empathy, that do everything in humanly possible to help this individual, but also they are dealing with what every other endocrinologist is dealing with. The ultimate problem in helping their patients manage type 1 or even type 2 diabetes is time. They don't have the time, resources, and capacity to do it. Their hands are handcuffed
I
by insurance.
that you're not wrong. I would argue. I thought you were gonna say you can only lead a horse to water. I think
No, I'm not going to
the
say,
bigger
like,
that's the
yes,
biggest knowledge in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, you're right. You can only lead a horse to water and it's up to that person. But think about if that person is it has so many other things in their life that's like things that are going on. A parent. I can't believe how many parents, like, they don't take a step back and be like, "Oh my god, like, I'm not good right now. Like, I'm having a hard time with this."
I mean
Like, it's
diabetic
like
diabetic parents or parents of
diabetic
diabetic.
parents, like, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 diabetics, and they don't know how to take care of themselves mentally. So then they become this person that's just constantly like the helicopter parent, or they become this parent that just struggles with how to make decisions for all of these individuals. I can't imagine that, man. My heart and soul goes out to the every single parent of a type 1 diabetic. And then you do the flip side of an adult that has to deal with it themselves. Me at 25, I had just started a career. I didn't even know who the heck I was. I didn't know what I was going to do as a career. I wasn't even in training yet. Like, what the heck was I going to do? Like, and now I have to deal with this emotionally crazy thing of like, now I got to live with diabetes for the rest of my life. No one is even there telling me how to do this or what to do or how to measure things or like literally have to figure it all myself. this thought process that the medical system that we all have, that like it's like, oh well, you gotta lead you can only lead a horse to water. It's like, okay, yeah, you can only lead a horse to water, but you also got to give that horse freaking resources. If you don't give that horse resources and just say, hey, walk to that water trough and get a freaking sip of water, that's not going to help anybody. Why do you do this to me?
That I'll leave it at that, man. I'll leave it at that.
Gosh.
This was a wild week of two. We did an hour total this week, so sorry.
No, it's good, man. It's fine. Yeah, been having technical difficulties, everybody, with Riverside, but we'll figure it out. And then we might, if we have time, we're also going to talk a little bit. I've got some more thoughts about this Eladon trial that I keep seeing that it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting what's going on with this Eladon trial
Yep.
and the biggest difference between the Vertex trial, the Eladon trial, and now this other pharmaceutical company that's coming into the mix to help
Crazy.
Eladon. Like, I mean, shit's moving fast, man.
Yeah, it is. This is
It's
exactly what I was gonna say.
and it's moving fast. It's exciting, but there's so much work left to do.
Mhm.
I just want to say this last thing, okay? And maybe this is part of our conversation about the Eladon trial. I think that things are moving really fast, and everyone should be really, really, really excited because I think now, finally, in the history of type 1 diabetes, we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel to a possible cure. But I also want everyone to understand, if you are waiting for this cure to come out and you to be ready for it, you are going to be sadly mistaken when that happens. Whether that's 5 years from now, 10, 20, 30, it does not matter because it is coming. It will come. I would imagine that it's going to come in Graham and I's lifetime. If you're a parent of a young kid, I guarantee it's going to come within your kid's lifetime. But the questions the real question that we have to answer is, what is your overall health going to be like when it does get here? Because if you have tons of ailments, tons of complications, tons of things going on, you might be not eligible for this. So this is the time. This is the time to start exercising more. This is the time to start learning how to manage your diabetes. This is the time to lower your A1C. This is the time to improve your time and range. This isn't the time to constantly make decisions based off of what your target blood sugar needs to be. Like, this is the time to take care of yourself mentally and physically. Because if you don't and you're just waiting around for the cure, you're going to be sadly mistaken when it actually gets here. Don't just wait around because you're living in suffering and pain and misery, not being able to figure this out. Go figure it out in whatever way that is. Go find support wherever you need to find support, and let's figure this out. Anything else, Graham, for our listeners?
Call me and I'll tell you to call Kim.
There you go. Call me. I'll tell you what to do. And if you don't like the answer, then I'll go tell you to go to someone else so you still have support. That's what the name of this game is.
All right, soccer. Have a good weekend, bro.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to you guys soon.